Hey, what's happening, guys? Got the new ZV-E10 Mark II here, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like out of the box. This is using the new 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens. So the ZV camera is optimized for beginners, really, or just ease of use. Like, so you don't have to be like so technically knowledgeable to get the results you want. For example, watch what happens when I hit the button on the top, the background defocus feature. So now, while recording with just a push of a button, I have a nice blurry background now with the 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens. If I hit it again, you can see it'll go to clear, and you can see the background will sharpen up quite a bit. Turn the background blur on here. There we go. Just really separate the subject much better now. Just put that back so you can see the difference really quick. It's going from defocus to clear is what I'm changing. So now you can see the background is a little bit more busy looking. Switch it back one more time. Now the subject really starts to pop with that isolation there. I have the active stabilization on, which is how the camera was set. So it's cropped in quite a bit, but this handheld footage should look very smooth. Now this camera doesn't have sensor stabilization, so this is a digital stabilization. So now I have it in standard mode. Now this is still at 16 millimeter, so I was recording at 16 a second ago. Now this is without active, so you can see how much wider of a view. For this test, I wanted you to note the stabilization difference between active and standard. So for handheld, that is what we're looking at. Also note the new 3-capsule mic. Pay attention to how the audio sounds. We got a car going past here, so you can hear how that sounds relative to my voice and so forth. At the top of the new ZV-E10 Mark II, I just wanted to show you how I have it set up for this walking on the bridge type stuff. So I have it set to video mode right here, and this is the on and off switch. Just want to show you that real quick so you can turn it on. You can see how the lens automatically opens up. Now you have a zoom lever here to zoom the camera. You can see it zooming over here. You have a record button here to hit record. So if you look over here on the screen, you have all these buttons on the left and the right side of the monitor. You can actually swipe those in and out. So if you don't see those, you just have to swipe in and they'll come in. You can also swipe up to get to the function menu. Now here in the function menu, you can see you have a bunch of different options. You got the facial detection there. You can see the human. When you press it from the function menu, it comes up this way, and then you have to scroll through each. So if you press the face from the side menu here for facial recognition, it'll actually toggle between the different options. So you got animal, bird, and human. You have that button right there that says standard. That is your stabilization. So you have standard and active, two different modes. Active crops in quite a bit. Now, if I go into the menu here, it's the top button here on the back, right where your thumb rests. Notice all the way on the left, you have a menu hierarchy here. Now, all the way on the top is the favorites area. One down is the main area. This is where all the key settings are, and I just wanted to show you how I have this set up. So I'm recording in 24p. You can see right there. Right here I'm using X AVC-S 4K. Next to that I'm using the 100 megabit 422 10-bit option. This stuff is auto. You can see how it's grayed out versus the white option there, how it's not grayed out. So now if we scroll down one more, here's where we have the options for log and what camera mode you're using. Now I'm using full auto video mode. That's why it has the I for intelligent auto. All right, so that's the basic settings for the camera, and you can get to all of that in the main area. And if you just press the shutter button up here, it'll bring you back to the screen so you can see what's going on. The other really cool feature that this camera has is the product showcase feature, but you can't do that while recording. You have to stop recording, enable it, and then hit record again. And if I hit the product showcase button again, which is the garbage can by default, or this button right here, if I press that button. All right, so this is with the product showcase on. And now if I put the product up, you could see even with my face in the scene, it will, focus on the product, which is exactly what I want it to do. So that's what product showcase does. I'm just going to turn that off. All right, so now I have product showcase turned off. And you can see when I hold this product up, if my face is in the scene, it is going to focus on my face. It will not focus on the product. Now the camera does not see a face, so it will prioritize it. As soon as a face comes back in, it's going to switch back. And then over here is the CineVlog feature. You can see it says CineVlog off. If you just tap that, it'll enable CineVlog. Very dramatic. And again, that's push of a button. Now you have to stop recording to enable it, but once it's enabled, you can then, while recording, actually change the different modes. So right now I am in S Cinetone, and you could see that cool Cinescope crop, how, you know, the black bars on the top and the bottom gives you that more cinematic look. You could change the color tone a little bit here. You can go to gold, ocean, forest, and that's back to auto, which is pretty much auto white balance using S Cinetone. And then instead of S Cinetone, you could do clean, chick, fresh, or mono. So those are the different options for CineVlog. So far this has been all handheld footage, and like I said, I have it in active mode. So what I'm gonna do is I just wanna mount this to a gimbal. I have this really affordable new gimbal from Weeble. It's the CinePeer 3E, which I just did a tutorial on in case you guys are, you know, new to gimbals and you wanna know how to use it. So I'm just gonna turn that off. It'll put it back to normal mode. Now I'm using the gimbal, and I just have it on standard stabilization, which with this camera is just gonna be the lens itself. So the optical stab on the lens. On a regular Sony camera that has the sensor stabilization, standard stabilization counts as the sensor and or optical stabilization, just so you know. Active is always digital, so it's like an enhanced digital stab. But anyways, just take note of how smooth the gimbal footage is. It's pretty incredible, right? I have the camera set to background defocus, so the background should be as blurry as possible using this kit lens. So another feature we need to talk about is skin smoothing. Now I'm recording with the A7 IV right now. There is no skin smoothing, so you can see what my face looks like. I'm gonna switch to the ZV-E10 Mark II in a second, but take a look here. On the top right, if you just swipe up using the screen here, that'll bring up the function menu. You can also hit the FN button on the back of the camera. But on the top right here, it says mid, see that? If you select that, and then you use the directional pad, you can control low, medium, high. And by default, this camera comes set to mid and it's turned on. So this footage on the bridge that you're seeing me with has the skin smoothing enabled. All right, so I'm in selfie mode here in the studio, and I have the skin smoothing set to low, just so you guys can see what it looks like. I'm not sure if I can change it while recording. Let's see if it'll let me. It looks like it will. So now I'm on skin smoothing medium, which is what the camera was on by default when I, turned it on. Now let me put it to high so you can see what high looks like. So this is what high skin smoothing looks like. Like, note what it does to the hair. It does a pretty good job. It works around the glasses and stuff. I used to not use it at all, but now I'm like, I think I look a little younger. I'm just gonna leave it on medium. I'm going to show you in a minute what this can do with a larger aperture lens, and you can actually get like really good background blur, very similar to what you can get on a full frame camera. So I just wanted to go over a couple of specs that this camera has that really separate it from the ZV-E10. So this has the much larger FZ100 battery, which is far superior. You could record for 2 hours as opposed to like 50 minutes. The 3 capsule mic, it's the same mic that's in the full frame ZV-E1. By the way, the ZV-E1 is an incredibly powerful camera, and I did a beginner's guide on that, and I reviewed it as well if you're interested. Super easy to use, but with that huge sensor. All right, so I was talking about the microphone a minute ago. If you go into the function menu here, and again, you could swipe up to get to the function menu just by swiping up like that. So now I'm in the function menu. If I hit the audio option, here are the different modes. So you have front, you have all directions, and you have rear. So like I said, if you leave it in auto, it'll try to analyze the situation and put it in one of those modes based on what it's hearing and stuff. I noticed in the car though, because of the echoing and the glass, it was having a little bit of a hard time in auto mode in that particular scenario. The other most important feature I would say is the new sensor. Now this is the same APS-C sensor found in the A6700 and FX30. So it's a really high quality sensor, has a much faster readout speed, so you're gonna get less, jello, less rolling shutter type stuff. Plus the new sensor has a more advanced autofocus phase detection on it. Also with the new sensor comes 10-bit video. That's right, this thing could do 10-bit video now, 422. And what that means, if you don't know, it's just more data basically, in particular color. The more information you have, the more you can edit the files in post. So if you shoot an S-Log, for example, you can get like the maximum dynamic range the sensor offers, so you can pull back the highlights and the shadows much easier shooting in those modes. But again, being a beginner-oriented camera, most people are probably going to use it how I'm using it right now. That's why I wanted to show you guys what it looks like just in this auto mode, where you can just touch around, change it to CineVlog and stuff like that. It's so cool. And again, just very, very easy to use. That is the key with this type of camera, the ZV cameras. Another new feature, check this out. When you go to vertical mode, the buttons all move. So now you got vertical buttons. And they work the same way. You can swipe them out of there if you want. Swipe them back. It's tracking Jace. Just touched on him and the tracking box. 4K 60. So that's 16 all the way to 50 right here. Now here's clear image zoom. It's pretty cool, right? The way the water looks. Alright guys, so now I have an 11mm lens mounted, and you can see how wide angle that is. So right about now I'm about 10 feet from the camera, I would say. The camera's at my height and it's actually aiming up a little bit. And you can see my feet, and this is just a wide angle view. Also take note how the audio sounds at about 10 feet away. And as I get closer, the audio should change a little bit, get a little more clear. All right, so you remember when I was telling you about that full frame look you can get with this lens? You could see how blurry the background is. This is the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 lens. And you can see unbelievable, like full frame look. So super impressive. And I just love using lenses like this. They are bigger and heavier and stuff like that. But for the money, you get a really good background out of focus area. And it's like I said, that kind of looks like what a full frame camera looks like almost. You know, it's very close. It's hard to tell, but the 3D pop is pretty darn good. So now looking down the bridge here, you can see just that depth of field. And like I said, the camera is just keeping track of my eye. I have human auto detect on right now, facial recognition. And I'm using aperture priority mode right now though on the camera, so I can force it to f1.2. And you can see as I get closer just how blurry it gets. It's incredible. So that's one of the huge advantages of the mirrorless cameras. Now, the ZV-1 and the ZV-1 Mark II is just a turnkey point and shoot style solution to the ZV line. So it has the same easy to use tools as this camera, except it has a fixed lens and the camera itself is much smaller. So it's like more pocketable. So the ZV-1 Mark II, again, feature set wise, very similar to the ZV-E10 Mark II. It just has a smaller 1-inch sensor. It's got an 18 to 50mm equivalent built-in lens on the ZV-1 Mark II. So you get a pretty good like overall package. It's about $1,000 though, which is about the same price as this camera. So for $1,000 you can get the pocketable turnkey point and shoot style with a fixed lens, or you can get the very, very powerful mirrorless camera, because the fact that you can put any lens on this camera makes it way more powerful and way more versatile. So that's something to consider depending on what your needs are, especially if you're not really sure what you're going to do in the future. With that being said, the 16 to 50mm kit lens is really good. It's not quite fast enough aperture wise for like really low light stuff at f3.5.
Hello, cutie pie. You're so cute. Look at that face. Look at that face. Oh, he's such an adorable. He's such adorable. Adorable.
And they did update it, so it zooms quite a bit smoother compared to the original, and it's able to focus better when zooming. So it is quite a bit better in that regard specifically. In addition to that, the kit lens is only $100 when you get it with the ZV-E10 Mark II. So for $100 you get like a power zoom lens, which is quite nice. If you want to buy it standalone, it's $300 for the kit lens. There's so many lens options now from Sony, it's unbelievable. And then when you add third-party lenses like Viltrox, Sigma, Tamron, I mean, the options are just unbelievable at this point. So really cool times, guys. And you can see I have the focus tracking box on the lock. Now watch when I click over here, you can see the tracking switched, and it actually is focusing on the spider web. So let me just touch right there. There we go. So now the focus switched, and I can go back to the lock by just touching on the lock again, and it'll go right back. See that? Alright, so now take note of the focus breathing. When you look at the edge of the screen, you'll see there's like a little bit of a zoom going on. Let me switch focus breathing on, and then we can compare the two. I have it saved in my favorites. It's under lens compensation, breathing comp. Turn that on like so. Now it is going to crop in just a little bit, but when we switch focus points, we should see no zooming. So I will show you the footage here so you can see and we can compare. But that's how easy it is. So all I had to do was turn this thing on, enter the date and time, which took a second. A couple other things I'll show you in the beginner's guide where I'll walk you through how to set this thing up from start to finish. So be sure to check that out. That'll come out a few days after this review. This is the playback button. So if you want to go in there to check out your videos and photos and stuff, you can hit the playback button and go in there, and then you can scroll through. You could use the zoom lever in and out to view your photos by date and time. And stuff like that. It's a little bit easier to navigate if you pan in and pan out, depending if you're on vacation or something like that. And then this center button, guys, by the way, is pretty much the enter button, just so you know. Like when you have to select something, you just press the center button. It'll also act as a focus if you press it, a standard focus for the center area if you press in on it, which is quite nice in certain scenarios. I like to swipe those out of the way so I can see more of the screen. Alright, so of course the ZV-E10 Mark II takes photos as well, so if we slide the dip switch over to photo mode here, so you got a shutter button here on the top left, and that's the same as pressing this button. So if you press this button, it'll focus and take the photo if you press it all the way. So it's a two-stage button. So if you just press this button, it's like touch shutter basically. It'll just take the photo. It'll focus and take the photo. Now if you slide up in the function menu, you're gonna have some different features depending on what mode you're in. And you can see I am in full auto mode, that little green box down there. So again, if I go into the menu here and go into the main area, notice how main only has one page in photo mode, but in video mode there was main 1 and main 2. So why I'm pointing this out is because it's important to note how the menus are different depending on what mode you're in. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for a specific feature and you can't find it, you might not be in the right camera mode. So that's how this works. And the camera by default is set to JPEG quality. You could set up RAW quality if you want. That's what I normally shoot when taking photos. I prefer shooting RAW, but JPEGs are pretty much processed on camera. So this way you can just share them immediately into social media or whatever. If you're shooting RAW, you have to process your images. It's kind of like shooting log in video. You have to process the video footage if you shoot log, basically, and it's kind of how RAW photos work similarly. A couple other things I just wanted to show you quick is right here, the drive mode. This is where you can go to take multiple photos. So if you're shooting sports, you can put it in continuous shooting. This is also where self timer is. So you can set the self timer to a couple of seconds like so. You can see it's counting down, and then it'll take the shot. And then again, you have skin smoothing like I already talked about, and then you have touch tracking. Now I just wanted to show you the touch tracking really quick. So if I touch on the face, that's going to enable touch tracking. So if I move the subject, it's going to track the subject. If I zoom in a little bit, might be able to see it a little better. So you can see it's tracking the face and the eye there, and it'll just continue to track it. Let me put it on the background, it might be a little easier to see. There we go, now you can see the tracking box. So now if I move the subject, it's not going to do anything, and it's not focusing on the subject either, even though it's a face. I overrode it by touching the screen, so by default the camera will focus on faces if you have facial recognition turned on, but what's so easy and convenient, you could just touch around the screen to override that at any time. By default, it's in tracking mode. Now, to cancel tracking mode, all you got to do is hit that little box on the top there. It's like a little square, or the center button on the dial on the back. Why it's important to know about tracking mode is if you're trying to hit one of these features like on the left or the right, it's pretty easy to like by accident miss the box, and then the tracking box comes up, and now the camera is only going to focus where that tracking box is. So you need to know that that might happen when you touch around the screen, and to cancel it you can just hit this little box up there, or like I said, the button on the back. So there we go, photo mode. Now S and Q mode. So on the top here we have slow and quick motion, so you can change the frame rate to record like slow motion video or fast motion video, and it'll bake it in right to the SD card. So it's not the same as recording in 120p and then slowing the footage down in post. This slows it down and saves it that way, so you'll have the slow motion written right to the memory card. So that's what slow and quick motion is. It's to get that fast or slow motion recorded right to your card. Now I prefer to shoot in like HD 120 for slow motion, and then I usually slow it down in post so I can manipulate the files, have audio as well in the 120 footage. So I prefer to do it that way. But again, this is the way to do it and get it on camera. So really powerful if you want to do that. Same thing with time lapse. This is where the time lapse options are. So you can go in there and you can set it up to all different modes. I'll go over this in much more detail in the beginner's guide. All right, so just going over the camera body a little bit more here. I just want to show you guys what it comes with in the box. This is what you should get. Now, it doesn't come with a wall charger, to my knowledge, so you're just going to need one. You could use the one that your cell phone uses or whatever, just to plug this USB cord in, and then you can plug this end in to the camera. I'll show you that right here. This is where the memory card goes in this slot. This is the headphone jack and the HDMI port. This is the charging port and the microphone port. This is my PD power source. Now, one thing I don't like about these new doors is how I have to hold them open. I like this style better where it just stays open, but they do have a little bit of rubber in there. So now I have a power source in there, and you can see that light turned yellow or orange, and that light should go out when the battery is fully charged. Close these. This door doesn't auto lock either. I wish it auto locked, so when you just closed it, it would lock, you know, like that. But anyways, this one here goes like that. Now again, if you're using this in selfie mode, you can swivel it this way, and now the screen will be facing you. That's how I was using it on the bridge there before when I was recording. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was on the bottom here, we have the battery door. Now, if you slide that over, it'll pop open, and it has this little rubber flap here on the battery door that you could peel back, and that's for like a dummy battery cord. And this is the new Sony FZ100 battery, which is much larger. You could see the grip is much bigger on this camera to accommodate, and this blue lever is what releases the battery. So you just slide that in there and it clicks in. You can hit that blue button and it'll pop back out like so. Now, this door does not auto lock either. I wish it did. Now, this is just a base plate that I have on there for this awesome freewheel tripod I just got. That's very lightweight and a really good option. I'll leave a link for that below if you guys want to check it out. Also, it does come with this camera strap here that you can weave through the strap holders right here if you want to, you know, hang this around your neck or whatever. And of course, we got the little mic buffeter here. They call it a dead cat or a mic diffuser. It goes on like that. I'm just going to leave it off for now. All right, I just wanted to show you a few more things in the menu quick. All right, so up here is the My Menu area, and you can see I have it loaded up with a bunch of stuff that I tend to use most. So I have a lot of options in here. You can copy these if you want. But the monitor brightness feature, I always have that set to sunny weather. It's way easier to see the screen if you have the monitor brightness set to sunny weather. So then if we go over here and we go down to shooting, and then we scroll down to shooting option. Check out this option here, guys. This is a new feature here, auto create still image. I have that turned on. And then after still image created, maintain. So what this is referring to is if you record video, for example, like watch when I hit the record button, and if I swipe over, these buttons will come back on the screen. You see this button right here? Watch when I stop recording. See how it's a playback button right now? Now when I hit record, it switches to an S1 button. Now what does that mean? It means shot marker. So when you hit that button, it's going to add a shot mark. See that? It says shot mark 1. And it just says shot mark 1 every time you do it. But basically what that's doing is it's telling the camera to create a photo with that, you know, shot marker. So it's going to take that frame and create a photo after the fact automatically. So basically what I'm doing is I am taking photos while recording video right now. So when you press the shutter when recording video, it focuses. So if you don't use that and you're not interested or whatever, you can actually assign this S1 button to the shutter button. So when you're recording video and you just press the shutter, it'll add those shot markers. And if you have that feature enabled in the menu, it's going to output those at the end. See now? It's creating the still images, see? Another thing I wanted to show you that's new on this camera, if I go into the menu here and we go back up to the main, it's this 1/48th of a second shutter speed. Now it's changing right now because it's in auto mode. So let me just change this to a different mode here. Put it in manual mode. And then I'll go back into menu, go up. Now I can lock it. So you see here, now I have the option to go up or down. So you can see it's 1/40th of a second, 1/48. 1/50th is what we used to have to use when recording in 24p, because remember, you always want to double the frame rate. So double 24 is 48, but 48 wasn't an option, so we would have to pick 1/50th. So now they incorporated 1/48th, which is, you know, cool. New feature, I like it. All right, so guys, when you're scrolling through the menu here, you might recall from previous Sony cameras that if you hit the garbage can, it'll give you more information about whatever feature you're currently on. So when you hit the garbage can now, what you're getting is two options. You're getting add to my menu. So this is another new feature. This is awesome because if you wanted to add stuff to my menu previously, you had to go into my menu and then hunt for the stuff. Now, when you're actually in the regular menu and you hit the garbage can, it'll prompt you, if it's an option that you can add to my menu, it'll give you this, which is add to my menu, or what by default it used to do is the in-camera guide. So if you press the in-camera guide, it'll tell you what that feature does. And you can just hit OK. But then if you hit the garbage can again, you can add it to my menu. So I'm going to add record level to my menu, and there it is. It's asking me to pick a spot. I'm going to go to menu page 2, and I'll put it down there at the bottom. So now it's just automatically added to my menu. So that saved a lot of effort when it comes to setting up the camera, in my opinion, because when you're just going through the menu and you see an item, you could now just instantaneously add it to my menu. Whereas, like I said, you had to hunt for it from my menu and pull it that way. Great upgrade, in my opinion. All right, so I just want to show you what this looks like compared to the original ZV-E10, which I personally own. I use it for my overhead rig normally. Right now I'm using my A6400 for the overhead rig, but the ZV-E10 is significantly smaller than the ZV-E10 Mark II. Now, technically it's not that much. It's only a little bit, but you can see it's like thicker and it's taller. It's got a larger grip. It's got the upgraded mic here compared to this mic, but otherwise it looks very similar. Now, if we look at the doors on this ZV-E10, the original, we have the mic door here, and then we have this one other door where everything else is. So we have the headphone, HDMI, and the USB-C. I like this single door. I mean, it is kind of nice having the three separate doors, but otherwise you could see these cameras are very, very similar. I do much prefer this slider for the three different modes as opposed to the push button. So that is another difference. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, is that you can customize this camera like tremendously, and you can have it customized for each different mode. So when in photo mode, you could have custom buttons do something different than when in movie mode or S&Q mode. And pretty much all the new Sony cameras are like that. All right, so here is the Sony a7C II. And here is the Sony a6700. Now, the a7C II, you could see, looks very similar. It is bigger, though. It is taller, and it's fatter. It's a little bit wider as well, right about there. So, yeah, it's definitely wider, fatter, taller, and it has the EVF on the back. Notice the a6700 also has the EVF on the back. Now, guys, the EVF, it's a game changer if you need that. That is pretty much the main reason why I bought the a7C II over the ZV-E1. I really want that viewfinder. There's a lot of situations where I'm outside where I just cannot see the screen effectively. Sports is a good one, you know, car shows, food festivals, like a lot of the stuff I like to do is outside, and I really need the viewfinder for effective photography. You can kind of get away with it using the screen in a lot of scenarios, but when it comes down to professional stuff and you really have to get the correct, you know, focus and everything like that, you really need a viewfinder in bright conditions. So these are two options, great cameras. The a6400 is another option that has the viewfinder. That's probably your cheapest option right now with a viewfinder. Another great camera for sure. I've had it for years, love it. But yeah, the a6700 is the new kid in town as far as the camera with the viewfinder and stabilization, which is really awesome. The a6700 also has 4K 60 and 4K 120, but it's cropped in quite a bit. So, but it does offer it. The ZV-E10 Mark II does not offer 4K 120. Perhaps they'll come out with a firmware update in the future to offer that feature. I really hope they do, but as of now, it does not have it. 4K 60 at a 1.1x crop though is really good. Shouldn't really have too much of a problem with overheating in studio environments. Outside, 4K 60 10-bit. Not exactly sure how long you're going to be able to record. It really depends on the ambient temperatures in your environment, but above 70 degrees, the clock's going to be ticking. Maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. I mean, it's possible it'll go the whole battery. It just depends on what temperature you're in, how much you used the camera before you fired it up, for example. Is the battery already hot? Things like that. So you cannot record indefinitely in 4K 60. If that's what you need and that's what you want to do, highly recommend the Sony FX30. The FX30 has an active cooling system built in, same sensor as this camera. That camera you can record all day long, 4K 60, and it's not going to overheat. Like, that is the camera for you if that's what you need. If you're doing stuff where 4K 60 and it's going to be hot, this is not the camera for you. So just keep that in mind. You know, certain situations, 4K 60 is going to work no problem, and it'll work for quite a while. But indefinitely, no. 4K 24 in the studio environment, you should be able to just record pretty much indefinitely. So you can also power this camera off the USB-C with a PD power source. So that's really, really helpful in studio environments, but with the new battery, it's less of an issue because it lasts so much longer, but it's still really nice to know you can just plug in a PD power source USB-C. You have to have the battery in the camera as well, but the battery just never goes down and you can pretty much use it all day. All right, guys, I just wanted to go over a couple of key accessories that you're really going to need for this. Now, one of them is a memory card. All right, so what I got here is the ProGrade 128 UHS 2 card. Now, this is a really good option. It's a V90 card, so it's very fast, and it'll be able to handle the 4K SI format, which is the really high data rate. It's like 240 meg or something like that. So this card will be able to handle that. Now, there's other manufacturers that make cards just like this. SanDisk, of course. I'll leave links below, guys. But look around between ProGrade and SanDisk or whatever's on sale. I would get that one, but definitely going to need a card for the camera. Might even consider getting a 256, the size larger than this. It's obviously more expensive, but you'll get way more video footage, especially if you're recording in those higher bitrate formats. It's going to chew up your cards fast. Another option that you guys might be interested in is a microphone. This is the best option that I have come across, the Sennheiser MKE 400. Now, this is a really high quality microphone. It comes with the diffuser and stuff. It auto turns on, auto turns off, and it just plugs in right to the mic port and it'll slide onto the hot shoe like so. It's not too big, it's very lightweight. But what's important is the quality of this mic. This mic sounds phenomenal, significantly better than the on-camera mics. And the mic you're listening to right now that I'm talking through is the Sennheiser MKE 600. So this is the 400. It's like the, you know, the baby brother or whatever. And it's really good. This is what I always use when I'm in the field pretty much, unless I'm testing a camera like I was in this video. All right, guys, that about wraps up this review, but don't forget, I'm coming out with the beginner's guide in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that, and that will walk you through how this camera works from start to finish in very, very great detail. I'll show you how all the different camera modes and stuff work. I'll also put the camera in the lab scene and I'll do a live demonstration so you can actually see how these features work and how, you know, shutter speed relates to aperture, all sorts of stuff like that. So with such a powerful camera, you really do have to put in the time to learn it if you're new to the Sony system, because, you know, the menus are deep, the features are rich, but a lot of them work together. And if you have one feature enabled, something might not work and things like that. So it's just the way the whole ecosystem works is what I'm going to try to break down in the beginner's guide. So they tend to be really popular. So I'm pretty sure you guys will like it once it comes out. So I will catch up with you later, and everything I talked about in this video will be linked below in the description area. I really appreciate you guys watching. Have a great day, and you take care out there, all right?